Welcome in, everyone, to another edition of our Cornhole Insider podcast here in the Northern Wisconsin Cornhole YouTube channel. I'm Joel Karnick, ACL Pro Blake Karnick. It's been a while, Blake.
It's good to be back.
It's been a while. We had all intentions of doing several videos this summer, but you had a lot of traveling, a lot of bags burn out, and just we wanted to do one where we were ready, right?
Yeah, that was the plan.
Not sure if we're ready yet. We want to thank Ultra Cornhole for sponsoring him this past season. Look for another episode of our podcast here in a couple of weeks where we're going to do a little down and back with Blake and talk about the season a little bit and the upcoming season. But right now, this is the first time we have ever done an episode where I did not tell him what I'm going to talk about.
It's a mystery to me.
I just want him to respond to some observations. I followed you and played at a lot of opens and ACL, followed you to Detroit, and I had a chance to watch a lot of pros play this year, and there were some things that I saw that were very consistent about most pro shots. Now, pros do have very unique shots. There's some very unique ones, but I thought there was some things that were very that were consistent in all the shots. And the first one is one that we covered a while back on a video, but it's about the release of the bag, and the name of this episode will be Rock, Lock, and Roll. Got that? Rock, Lock, and Roll.
Rock, lock, and roll.
Rock, lock, and roll. So number one is the rock. And there's some players that you see on the pro circuit who have a big rock, the Jordan Powers, Jay Rubin a little bit, and others, where they really are back on their back foot, and there's a lot going on from back to forward. But even the players that don't have that, Blake, the Jamie Grahams and others, I think it's important that in any sport that when you release the ball or the bag, that there has to be a little momentum moving toward your target. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, it's different for everyone, but I think it's better to have a lot of forward movement, backward and forward, than just being stiff like this. So you're able to get momentum, you find a rhythm with that. And you said guys like Jay Rubin, Jordan Power, they really get into it with a swing, but it's kind of like a baseball pitcher in a way too. Some really go far back and some just are really quiet, but they're still moving a little bit and they're getting that rock back and forth. So you're right, that's an important part of a consistent throw, I think.
And I found also that not only the rock, but when you release the bag, it's important that the release is happening as you're going forward, because I've seen some lower to middle level players have a little bit of rock, but by the time they release it, it's kind of stopped and they're almost throwing off their back foot a little bit because they step a little bit, but the release doesn't come until their weight comes forward, and then they're almost throwing with their weight on the back heels a little bit. That causes, I think, a floppy bag and that left and right stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of a fluid motion. That's kind of a word I always mention in a throw, just kind of that momentum like you talk about, just fluid back and forth, even if it's just a little bit back and forth, or if you like a little bit more, if you want to get into your throw more. But yeah, the timing has to be there, you're right, and it just has to be simple. But even just watching a lot of high-level players, I think that'll click for a lot of people, seeing, oh, that's what you mean by momentum. Just everyone has that in their own way in their throw, but it's important to have.
Yeah, the rock part of rock, lock, and roll. A little bit of something. Some people like to step when they get finished doing it. I think there has to be a little. I can always tell if I'm doing it right because the front of my feet, the ball of my feet will hurt a little bit at the end of the day, but I'm kind of leaning into it at the end, and that's important.
Yeah, for my throw, I mean, I'm starting like my weight's a little bit more on my back foot. In this case, it's my left foot, me as a righty. And it's just a little forward like that. It's nothing like over there, or like I'm not going way back. Some people like to do it a little more than others, like we said, but mine's pretty quiet and simple. It's just shoulders forward and just a little bit of momentum forward. That rock, like you said.
Yeah. So I think videotape yourself and see if you're releasing the bag when your momentum is actually going forward, or are you going forward and then you're releasing it after you've stopped moving forward, which is it's total opposite of the point you want. So that's the rock part of rock, lock, and roll. All right?
Say that 10 times fast.
We got lock. We got the lock part next. All right, so the lock part. We rocked, and now the lock. Now, one thing I noticed too, and I've talked to you about this a lot too, and you've never said no to it, is the locking of the arm. And I'm not talking about really squeezing, you know, tense like this, but I think in order to have that consistent straight bag, this arm right here, like a pendulum on a clock, has to have a little bit of tension to it. Some pros will do it maybe a little bit turned or whatever, but whatever it is, it has to be locked, because I think, my opinion, Blake, is if it's not, if you're flimsy, then you're just going to get an inconsistent release. Is that right?
Yeah, there's just got to be that right tension in between, like you said, like really death grip in the bag and just kind of having it just lay loose in your hand, because it's going to really be all over the place if you don't find that middle tension. It just has to be smooth and the same throughout your entire backswing. Like you said, there's just a little bit of tension there, not too much like it's really uncomfortable, but just a little bit so the bag does the same thing on the backswing and forward.
And play with it a little bit. I found, I'm a tall guy, I'm 6'4", and for me, for some reason, I find that if I come forward and I come back and I almost come back and lock my arms straight up and down like this, that I can get a flatter bag and a consistent release. And I think it's because I'm so tall that if I don't do that, my body has a lot going on and I just don't get a consistent release and I open up too quick. So my philosophy, Blake, is I totally overemphasize. Like when Steph Curry shoots threes, I mean, sometimes you'll see him shoot and he'll just follow through and you'll hold it right there, because that follow through is so important. So overemphasize what you're doing on the rock first and then the lock. Really take time to rock a little bit and pause, get that tension right there, and then see if you can release it and get that bag to go straight, and a little bit of rotation on it too would be nice too.
Yeah, just that straight line like you talk about, that pendulum is really important. But locking it, I mean, it might be a little bit too strong of a word for it. When people hear lock, they think, oh, you got to really death grip and just lock it. But like you said, there's just got to be that middle tension you got to find to get that straight pendulum straight out, get that timing down.
You got to play with it, you know, rock a little bit, lock your arm a little bit, play with it. All of a sudden you'll find you throw 2 or 3 bags and you're like, hey, that bag looked different. That bag had better rotation. Maybe you found something for yourself. Everybody's got different length arms. Everybody's got different physical things going on.
Yeah.
So I think that's why you see so many unique throws on the pro level, is because everybody's just a little bit different physically, and there's just different genetics in there, I think.
Yeah, it's different for everyone. It's important. I always tell people that it's important to video yourself too if you're struggling or if you have questions about mechanics. Video yourself and compare yourself to either high-level pros or someone you throw with locally that you think is really good, or someone that has a similar play style, body type, whatever, just so you can adapt little things to your throw.
Yep. Start with the rock. If you have to do a little trigger foot on that to get the rock, that's fine. Start with a little tension, see if you can lock that arm. And our final one will be the roll. It's not the roll you think it is. It's a little different. We'll do the roll next.
Rock and roll?
Well, that may be. All right. So we're rocking and we're locking and now we're rolling. And what I mean by roll is, I did it because it kind of rhymes a little bit. So we got a little bit of momentum going this way, and we got a little bit of tension here, so we're not flopping. And now that release point, when you get out here, ultimately you want all of it to happen where you're kind of got a little momentum going forward, your release is at the same time, and you're coming out. And I want to say you're taking your hand and you're rolling it up and getting a nice release like this. Yeah. And that leads to that rotation, doesn't it?
Yeah, just a little bit. And sometimes it happens more naturally than others. Like mine, I've been doing it so long that my hand kind of just naturally does that without even me thinking about it. But some people, like when they start out, it's just their hand just goes out like that, or they might overemphasize like that, trying to roll it over, but just rolling it over a little bit, getting that flat palm, more so that pointer finger, a flat pointer finger and palm right at the target.
And it doesn't have to be that perfectly flat bag like this. If it's consistent and it's hitting the board and going straight every time, if you're the type of thrower who throws the bag and one time you throw it and it hits and kicks left and the next time it kicks right, well, that means you're just getting an inconsistent rotation on that. If you can just get it out of your bag, even if it comes in a little sideways, it doesn't have to be perfectly flat like this, that'll help to keep that hit. When you hit the board, it'll consistently go straight for you.
Yep.
All right, so we rocked it, we locked it, and now we come through and we release. We want to get that release out here to let that bag come out flat. So let's do a little down and back and see if we can't we can't legitimize what we just said by making it look good, okay? All right, let's see what we can do. Okay, so let's put to use what we've learned here. A little rock, a little lock, a little roll. I'm going to overemphasize mine. Blake's just going to do his normal throw. He doesn't need to change anything.
Yes, I do.
So what I've found recently is I like to use a trigger foot a little bit, and a lot of people do that. Quinn Reeves is a big trigger foot guy, and other guys. So it just gets you that momentum. So I like to start with my foot up just a little bit, and I'm going to bring my bag back, and I'm going to really delay it and lock it back here and see if we can't get a little flat rotation. So we're going to come up like this. We'll come back, momentum, and I throw it off the board. See?
You were really emphasizing it, though.
I was really just trying to emphasize.
That's what happens sometimes. That's why it's good to do it in practice. You more think about your mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want it to just be experimenting with that much stuff in a game. You maybe want to tweak a thing or two during a day in a tournament, but to be focusing on basic mechanics like that in practice is when it has to be. And
right.
Who cares if you throw some bad bags? It means you're getting better.
Do better than that, okay?
So I got my lock. My weight's a little bit more on my back foot and my left foot, and when I throw, I'm just going to rock forward. That lock. Rock, and roll.
All right. Same with me. I'm going to focus on my shot a little bit more. Get that bag out there. Right. It's a decent flat bag. So happy with that.
Yeah, that's fine. Oh, that one's in my way. I'm going to have to push it.
Rock, lock my arm back. Going to get out and roll it up here a little bit. Come around you.
Nice shot.
Nice shot. Thank you.
I got a little bit of an alley here. Same thing. I'm not going to overemphasize it too much. See if I can make the shot. Not terrible.
Right.
Pushed it up into a better position.
Get my trigger foot up. I'm going to come back. Get a little tension back there. Get a little release through. Right out in front. Made it a tough push shot for him.
Yep, I'll try pushing that on the right side. Might clog up, but I'll still try it. I pushed that one in.
Not too
I'll
bad.
take it.
Let's do one more down and back. All right, so remember, repetition is the key when you're practicing. When you get in a game, you have to be able to lock in on your mechanics. When you throw that bad bag, know what you have to do to throw it so you can overcome those nerves and just make it very simple. So again, this is what I do. You find something different. I got my trigger foot. I get a little momentum going. I get a little tension lock, and I get out and get through the bag and throw it off the board. But again, I was over.
Every time you overthink every single little step, then you forget aim and stuff.
I was going a lot slower than I normally do. I just wanted to show you the mechanics of it.
Yeah, you're just focusing on the very basics.
Yep.
So.
All right.
Level one blocker for you.
Get a little momentum, get a little lock, get through it. All right. Made your life a little difficult there.
Hopefully not. Hopefully. That's a little left.
Okay, I'm going to push through it all. I got my trigger foot. I'm going to come back, a little tension, get through it. Not horrible.
Still makes my life difficult. There you go.
Okay, I'm going to go slippery side. I'm going to get a little lower zip on this. See if I can't get around it.
Ooh.
Right.
I'm going to step out a little bit. Same thing with the step out. Just rocking forward towards the target. Aiming at the target. Going slippery side. Hope sneak around it. I clipped the dead spot. Still knocked that one in though.
So give it a shot. Rock, lock, roll, work on it in practice. And again, overemphasize to start with so you get that field momentum. You got to have a little momentum toward your target. There has to be a little tension here. You can't just be flopping around back here, and just open up and see if you can flatten out that bag a little bit and get it to be. I know it'll be straighter when you lock that arm a little bit. I know that for sure. The rest of it, you have to work on. So it takes a lot of work.
Just finding it for yourself, putting the time in the practice.
Yeah, exactly. All right, thanks for tuning in to another episode. Thanks to Ultra Cornhole for sponsoring this guy, and another sponsor too, right?
Element Exteriors this year. John Blanco up in Stillwater, Minnesota. Appreciate all he did for me this year.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys watching, and we'll try to get another one out here in the next couple of weeks. Check out the Northern Wisconsin Cornhole YouTube channel and hit subscribe. See you later.